There's a Power Four athletic director that says the Big Ten and the SEC will tell the bottom schools in their conferences to hit the bricks. Will the Big Ten actually kick out some of its lower tier schools as it tries to bring in higher profile schools into the conference while it expands? This AD says yes. I say no. Locked On Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman. Coming up on 40 years as a sports talk show host and a play-by-play announcer, and I want to thank you for finding us and making us your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So, Big Ten contraction, not expansion, contraction. Is it on the table? Indiana, Purdue, Rutgers, Northwestern. Do they have to worry? Plus, we have other Big Ten news and our power rankings with a very interesting twist. Hang around for all of that. So, Iowa State Athletic Director Jaimie Pollard, he's the one that says the Big Ten will contract, not just expand with newer, bigger, shinier teams. He says the bottom tier teams in the Big Ten and the SEC will get kicked out in order to keep all games on the schedule competitive and, of course, increase revenue. I don't agree with him. But there's a lot that he does say. He's not, overall, his line of thinking is not off. I will get into this a little bit here. Now, sticking to just the Big Ten, we'll worry about the SEC later. He's talking about teams like Rutgers and Northwestern and Indiana and Purdue, and that's just some of them. Pollard has been an athletic administrator for a long time with stops in the Big Ten, as a matter of fact, as an associate or deputy athletic director at Big Ten schools like Maryland and Wisconsin before ultimately taking over the athletic department job, the athletic director job at Iowa State. Pollard says that it won't necessarily be the Big Ten conference that gives the little guys the boot. He suggested those that pay the bills, the TV networks. They will force the move. They're behind the move. I'll argue that they're already starting that, by the way. Stay tuned for that. He seemed to also allude that a day will come when top tier teams like Michigan and Ohio State and Penn State, and even maybe some newcomers like Oregon and USC, are going to look around and say, hey, why are we giving $100 million a year to a school in Bloomington or Piscataway? What are we doing? Let's keep more for ourselves, or let's get somebody in here bigger and shinier. You know, what are we getting out of that? Giving it to these smaller schools. That's what they're going to ask. And maybe the top tier teams would turn on their bottom tier teams if pressured by the networks. Of course, the networks want more consistent products, better games, better matchups from top to bottom. They don't want a 35-point blowout between Ohio State and Indiana on any given Saturday afternoon. By the way, this pressure from the networks, I think it's already happening. In fact, if you're a Big Ten fan, you know that NBC started carrying Saturday night football games last year. And they went through it's part of that 7 years, $7 billion deal, the rights deal that the Big Ten is enjoying right now. But throughout the entire season last year, and the first two games of the 2024 season have already been announced. In fact, there'll be Fresno State at Michigan in week 1, then Colorado at Nebraska in week 2. Talked about that a little bit here. How many times all last year and the first two games on the schedule that have been announced this year, how many times has Indiana appeared on that NBC slate? I'll wait. 0 times. Networks are already controlling, already forcing the little guys out. The high-paying networks already calling the shots on the schedule. Whether they realize it or not, whether it's passive or aggressive, I'm not sure. But we could probably figure it out. But athletic directors like Pollard, he's not even into Big Ten, but he's got a bird's eye view of the landscape of college football. And he says the less successful schools in the Big Ten and the SEC better keep their head on a swivel. Pollard continued by suggesting that it's not just the teams that will get cut. He said as college football continues to merge into some sort of super conference arrangement or super conference, whatever the case is, He says there won't be a need for two different $6 million a year commissioners like we have in the Big Ten and the SEC. He's suggesting it'll all come down to one. And he pointed out some examples. He said, remember the ABA-NBA merger back in the day, or the AFL-NFL merger back in the day. They were two different commissioners down to one. He thinks a similar play will happen here with these super conferences in college football. And he said, if you don't believe him, look no further than the Pac-12. Did you ever think the Pac-12 would disappear? I didn't. You didn't. Nobody did a couple of years ago. Now it's basically nothing. There are other moving pieces at play here. For example, would the Big Ten ever want to get rid of Purdue, for example, because football has not been very good and West Lafayette is a tiny, tiny market. Doesn't really do them any good for TV ratings. But yet basketball just made the national championship game, and that's still kind of important to some people. Basketball's all well and good, but football's driving everything here. What about cyclical teams? You know, Nebraska a long time ago used to be really awesome, and then they weren't. They've really struggled for a while, although I do believe that they're going to be good again under Matt Rule really soon, by the way. You got cyclical teams. Sometimes they don't add much. Sometimes they do. Is there something to be said for keeping the bottom tier schools in the conference? You know, give the big boys a easy win every once in a while instead of beating their brains out each and every week. Maybe the middle tier teams will want the lower tier teams because they got to rack up a few wins to get bowl eligible. They won't be able to get them against the upper tier teams. There might be some pushback on all of this idea. You know, if you're an everydayer here with Lockdown Big Ten, you know where I think this is going. I think ultimately we get down to two super conferences, 24 to 30 teams each. One will be some form of the current Big Ten, and the other will be some current form of the SEC. And it'll kind of be like the NFL's AFC versus NFC conference model, which concludes with a championship in the Super Bowl. And I think we'll have the same thing in college football. I think we'll have the 24 to 30 teams in the Big Ten battle it out, maybe have their own little playoff. How many teams? I don't know. Same thing in the SEC, and those two meet for a national championship. Be in those two conferences or be left out. That's where we're going right now. Now, under my vision, I think that these super conferences combined will have 48 to 60 teams, depending if you go 24 per conference or 30. And because of that, I don't think any school will get cut. This is where I disagree with Athletic Director Pollard. I think if you're in right now, you're good. I think you're in. These conferences will continue to add more teams, but they're not going to cut anybody that's in there right now. And with 48 to 60 teams, if you're in, you're going to be safe. I think the teams that really need to worry are the leftovers for when the ACC blows up, and it will. It will. We've talked about that many times here. Most of the teams will find a home in one of these super conferences, but there may be a few stragglers at the bottom of the conference. I don't know where they're going to go. Same thing's going to happen to the Big 12. Not as powerful ever since, Texas and Oklahoma are leaving right now as we speak. I think a couple of the remaining good teams will end up in the SEC or the Big Ten or what have you in these super conferences, and that conference will blow up. We'll get down to 2. We're already down to 4. We used to have 5, if you don't believe me. All right? No more Pac-12. So now we're down to 4. We're going to get it down to 2. That's what I think, and that's how I differ, in my opinion, with Athletic Director Pollard from Iowa State. We'd love to know what you guys think about it as well. There are always interesting comments from you all when we talk about expansion or super conferences or whatever. Love to hear from you. Hit us up on X or Twitter at Talk Big Ten number 10. Don't forget your comments on YouTube, and the scroll on the bottom, you see talkbig10number10.com. That is our website where, by the way, all of our podcasts go in chronological order or by team to make it easy for you. If we talked about your team that day, it's under your team in the website, on the website. Again, talkbig10number10.com. So feel free to check that out as well. All right. I want to also ask you, if you like what you see, subscribe. Man, we've been pushing the subscriptions are up over 8,000 already. Thank you very much. We did it. We just keep motivating. We're turning the corner to 10,000. That's what we're going to get before the start of the season. No doubt about it. Started out with 1,200 10, 11 months ago, and now, boom. Thank you if you have already. If you haven't, subscribe, and we'll be together in our Big Ten Club. And you can follow and like Locked On Big Ten for free wherever you get your podcast. That way you get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. Maybe a running back controversy. Forget about quarterback controversies. We may have a running back controversy at Ohio State and Columbus. We'll talk about that. And did you know a Big Ten coach was fired this week? You may not. It's all coming up right here next on Locked On Big Ten. eBay Motors, passion, drive, patience. That's the formula for winning championships. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need and all the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Thank you for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen every day, especially you everydayers out there. Meanwhile, again, don't forget to subscribe. That really helps us out. Thank you. Subscribe on YouTube and share and follow and like Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. And don't forget our website, talkbig10, 10.com. Let's talk about an interesting story regarding Ohio State's running backs room. Trevion Henderson. He's one of the best running backs in the country, and he's ready for a big 2024 season at Ohio State. So how do you think he felt when Ryan Day pulled him aside and said, hey, all SEC running back Quinshon Judkins is from Ole Miss he's thinking about coming here, going to transfer here to Ohio State. And Day said, to Henderson's credit, that Henderson was great about the entire thing. He said, Coach, does this make our team better? Yeah. All right, well, let's do it. Great. Can't ask for anything more. So the feeling was mutual when Quinshon was told that Henderson was coming back to Ohio State for another year. He said, all right, I'd love to play with Henderson. And he backed his words by transferring into Ohio State anyway, knowing that there was a guy there. So pretty cool. Look, there's something to be said about working in tandem with another running back these days. Again, it's not like a quarterback competition. Although I did find it interesting how EA Sports and the College Football 2025 cover put Judkins on the cover instead of Henderson. I thought that was interesting. But let's get back to running backs. They only have so many miles on their legs. They can only take so many hits. And so I think it's nice to have a guy to share the load with. Plus, it's almost a guarantee that one of the team's running backs will miss some time during the season due to their bruising job description that they have. So splitting reps will keep these guys fresh and healthy for the season and for their future pro careers, which is what they're really thinking about. Two running backs, by the way, is almost a necessity in the ground and pound Big Ten. Just ask Michigan, Penn State, Wisconsin. Two running backs is how they roll. Ohio State, too. Ohio State has always had a bunch of running backs as well. Plus, having two key running backs, it allows those two guys to play off each other and make each other better. It's always good. Plus, let's not forget the obvious thing here. A coach like Ryan Day at a school like Ohio State, they can never be caught shorthanded due to injuries or transfers. They got to have extra guys on standby ready to go at all times. There's no excuse. You can't say, well, we were really banged up. We were thin at a particular position. No, it's next man up. You got to have a guy ready to go at a school like that. And I mean, look at what Ryan Day's done at quarterback. He already had a 5-star freshman quarterback in Aaron Nolan already sealed and delivered and ready to go. And still Ryan Day accepted another 5-star freshman quarterback in Julian Sand when all of a sudden he became available. He said he wanted to transfer. Ryan Day said, bring him in. Let the best man win at any position. That's just how it goes. Hey, if anyone watched IU basketball this season, you saw the season-long development of transfer Khalil Ware. Struggled mightily at first, but by the end of the season, he turned himself into a soon-to-be first-round pick in the upcoming draft. He's at the combine right now as we speak. His development from the beginning of the season to the end of the season was quite extraordinary. He's currently, again, at the combine getting ready to be drafted. Heard anything from mid-first round to early second-round pick, but he raved about Mike Woodson and Cliff Marshall and the Indiana staff for preparing him and his game for the next level. And this season, again, after a very, very slow start, his numbers, they peaked. They spiked. Averaged 16 points and 10 rebounds throughout the season, and that's with the slow start. He had 18 games with multiple blocks, shot 60% from the field, also had 14 double-doubles. He had 8 games where he had at least 20 points and 10 rebounds in those games. So he's ready for the NBA. He's given Indiana and the coaching staff all the credit in the world for turning his game around and leveling it up a notch. By the way, we're talking about Ohio State earlier. I don't know if you're aware of this, but Ohio State fired their softball coach, Kelly Kovacs-Shonley, after 12 years at the helm. This year's team went 30-21. They finished in 6th place in the Big Ten standings. And she made 5 NCAA regionals in her 12 years. By the way, she's a Michigan alum. Don't know what was a factor, but there's a new AD coming in at Ohio State and wanted to make a change. Going to start with softball. No matter what sport you're coaching, high expectations at Ohio State. I don't know what your expectations are if you're watching any daytime TV on Fox, FS1, ESPN, and all the talking heads screaming over each other all the time. I don't watch it myself, but I got another option for you here called Locked On Sports Today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So we always talk about recruiting here and who won the transfer portal and all that kind of stuff. How about the schools that lost the most players in the transfer portal? Yeah, we're going to rank them. It's our power rankings midweek. We do that every week. It's next right here. Where's your school on this list? On Locked On Big Ten. You have to buy tickets to an event? You want to go to an event? Major League Baseball game? College World Series? Anything. Game Time. Get the Game Time app and get your tickets there. It is awesome. It is easy. If you are the person in charge of getting tickets for your group, you're going to want this. It's very easy. A couple taps on your phone. If you download the app, boom. Last minute deals. If you're running late, putting something together at the last second, you can do it. You can see the view from your seat, from the ticket you're about to purchase right there on your phone before you hit enter, and you're good to go. No surprises with the pricing as you put it all together. In fact, they have last minute deals where you can save up to 60% buying last minute tickets. And this for sporting events, concerts, comedy, theater, everything that has a ticket. Game Time is your app. Check it out. They got flash deals. You can save even more with their exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of a game or an event as well. Just download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and the redeem code LOCKEDONCollege. It's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE. LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. So check it out. Game Time. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, let's take a look at our power rankings here in the middle of the week. We're gonna do something a little different. We're gonna list all the schools of the Big Ten, 1 through 18, even including the new ones. There's gonna be a number next to it. Those are how many kids have left in the transfer portal, and we're gonna rank them. So we're gonna get again. We always talk about, hey, who's coming in, who's adding to the team, all that. Who left, who lost the most kids. Sometimes it's because it's a coaching change, new guy in town, whatever the case may be. But let's take a look at it here, and we'll put it on the screen. If you're audio only, we'll describe it. We'll start off with the first 10. All right, Indiana. More kids have left Indiana this year, the football team, than any other school in the Big Ten. Michigan State tied with them there, 1-2. 39 kids have left. Now, Some of this is explainable because Kurt Cignetti coming in, he's a new coach. Some of Tom Allen's guys left, plus Cignetti wanted different guys in, so guys left. Now, what this doesn't take into account is that 24 guys are coming in. So you lose 39, 24 are coming in. So it's not as bad as it seems. I think 14 of them are coming from James Madison, following Cignetti to Indiana. So Indiana is going to be like James Madison West Side, right? Going all the way to Indiana. Michigan State, new coach, Jonathan Smith. Now, of these 39, most of them left in after spring practice. So he tried them out for a while, or they decided to hang around for a while and see how it was going to go. And then they decided to leave. Big number, 39 players leaving Michigan State. Some of them pretty good. Now, he's also bringing 17 kids in, so it's not a total loss. Number 3, Washington. 29 kids have bolted. Now, Kalen DeBoer's gone, and that's a big number for transfer portal because Washington also lost a lot of players to the NFL. So this number is even the Washington, 29 losses from the portal, bunch of kids going to the NFL or graduating. Jed Fish comes in. Now, he did bring in 20 kids, so they'll soften it a little bit as well. Remember, 20 of the 22 starters from last year in the national championship game are gone. At number 4, Southern Cal coming in with 29, matching Washington. Most of those were defensive players, most of them after spring football, just recently in the last few weeks. So, look, they are making a huge commitment at Southern Cal on the defensive side of the ball. They want new talent in there. They got a new defensive coordinator. They are trying to fix that because they can score. They can't stop anybody. They got to fix that up. At number 5, we got Purdue. 28 kids have bolted. Biggest one there, wide receiver Deion Burks going to Oklahoma. At number 6, Ohio State has lost 25 kids to the transfer portal, starting with quarterback Kyle McCord. But also keep in mind, they got some new players coming in. Caleb Downs, Quinshon Judkins, we just talked about. They got their quarterback coming in. So, I mean, they got other players coming in. It's not as bad as this number looks. At number 7, Wisconsin, 23 players have portaled out. None of them 4 stars or 5 stars from when they were recruited. So this just might be a case of Luke Fickell in his second year, kind of cleaning out the closet a little bit. At number 8, Illinois, 22 kids have left. Biggest one there, running back Reggie Love is going to Purdue. He knows Ryan Walters, the head coach of Purdue, because Ryan Walters used to be on the Illinois staff. So Reggie Love going over to West Lafayette. At number 9, Oregon. They have lost 20 kids. And this was I think only 6 of the 20 that left Oregon went to Power 4 schools, big conferences. Most of them that left were going to smaller schools where they can actually get some playing time. So I think that was Oregon's loaded. They don't need to worry about anything, even being on this list. Number 10, you got Minnesota. They lost 18 kids, including Ethan Kaliakmanis, their quarterback, who went to Rutgers and was just named the starter there. At number 11, UCLA lost 17 kids. You knew this was going to happen. Now, most of these left while Chip Kelly was still there. Remember, Deshaun Foster took over. Dante Moore had already left for Oregon, their quarterback, while Kelly was there. I didn't know there was going to be a coaching change. I don't know if that would have changed his mind or not. At number 12, Michigan, they lost 17 kids. Sharon Moore going to take over the helm and going to be interested to see. I mean, I don't think that I can recall too many big-name kids leaving. I think these are kids just looking for some more playing time elsewhere. At number 13, Rutgers has lost 15 kids, including quarterback Gavin Wimsatt, who went to Kentucky, their quarterback, but that was because Ethan Kaliakmanis had just been named the starter after spring football, so Gavin Wimsatt bolted Rutgers there. At number 14, Penn State has lost 13 kids, no bigger than wide receiver Keandre Lambert-Smith. They need to shore up that wide receiver deal. And number 15 and 16, also with 13 players out, Maryland and Iowa. Maryland lost 13 kids. Right away, they lost Jayshon Barham, their linebacker. He went right to Michigan. Got an interception when he was playing for Maryland against Michigan. J.J. McCarthy didn't throw a lot of interceptions. I think he threw 4 all year. Well, Barham got one of them. At number 16, we mentioned Iowa, 13 kids lost. The strangest one was Caden Proctor, who he's from Iowa, went to Alabama, left Alabama, portaled into Iowa. They thought he was going to be, and then right at spring break, he went out with his friends and his teammates at Alabama, and he said, "No, I made a mistake. I'm going back to Alabama." So he never took a snap for Iowa, but he counts as one of the 13 that left. At number 17, Northwestern, 12 players have left. David Braun, year number 2 for him. He was very disappointed. He lost quarterback Brendan Sullivan, who ended up going to Iowa. So that was a big loss for them. And Nebraska has only lost 8 kids total in the portal. That is the lowest number in all of college football, not just the Big Ten, but all of college football. Big Power 4 college football. They did remember Jeff Sims left to Arizona State, in case you're wondering where he landed. Of course, with Dylan Raiola coming in, he left. But yeah, great job by Matt Rule keeping all of his kids at Nebraska. So what do you think? There we have it. There's our list, our power rankings for the middle of the week. And many ways for you to reach out to Locked On Big Ten. You can interact with me on Twitter at talkbig1010.com. The website, you see the scroll on the bottom, talkbig1010.com, and comments on YouTube as well. And again, before you go, 2 things. Subscribe if you don't mind. It's free. It's simple. It's a click of a button. And you can follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app, and you get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it becomes available each and every day. And I'll invite you to hang around and watch another episode of Locked On Big Ten in case you missed one early in the week. Go to our website, talkbig10.com. They're all right there. And you can also watch our friends from Locked On at Locked On Sports Today, here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus all of our national shows covering every single league, every team. So go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe there to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. All right, that'll do it. It's been a blast as always. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back at it tomorrow, keeping an eye on all these interesting stories, twists, turns, lawsuits, expansion, portals, transfers. We got our eye on it. We're right here. So check it out, and can't wait to talk to you again tomorrow. Thank you for checking us out. Tell your friends about us, especially if you have a Big Ten alum friend or family member that may not have heard of us yet. Spread the word of mouth. We are growing leaps and bounds. We're one of the fastest growing shows and podcasts on all of the Locked On Network. So check that out. Thanks again. We'll talk to you tomorrow. I'm Craig Sheeman for Locked On Big Ten.